Bills fans, what's up, guys? Yep, it's the In the Hunt hamster wheel time of year, folks. Same as it ever was, just like that Talking Head song. Just that song this time of year is always in my goddamn head. The Bills are the proverbial 5-7, 6-6, 7-6 at best, hoping that they can do some sort of miracle in this last quarter of the season, and it generally never comes to fruition. So, well, it never does come to fruition when it relates to the playoffs, but that's neither here nor there because I don't think this team is currently constructed as going to the playoffs, uh, given the percentages and all the things that has to happen. So I think that's out. But a lot's happened since I last did a video. I mean, the disastrous start for Peterman in San Diego, which I'll touch on a little bit. I mean, you had a lot of people who are, and I'll also touch on the dwindling, if any, faction of Bills fans who are pro-Tyrod, the anti-Tyrod, and a lot of some people tend to think I'm this anti-Tyrod guy, and that's never been the case. I'm never this. Give me the humble pie, and I'll eat it twice over, 10 times a week, twice on Sunday. I wanted to be wrong about Tyrod. I wanted to be wrong about a lot of these guys, but that's just not the case. Some roster moves, the Pats game, which was just a dud. The KC game, which was a win, but toothless in my opinion. There was not much going on. The offense was what it's been, just this stagnant a unit, as you'll see, and now this Colts game, which is a very just a very up against it opponent with a ton of injuries, a situation that I'll kind of liken to where I'd like the Bills to be yet not to be. But anyway, yeah, let's just go to the whole Peterman thing. This disaster was the start of a disaster. I feel like once they lost Benjamin early on in that game, a lot of their game plan just went to shit. Rookie quarterback in his first start, it was hard. The offensive line didn't do him any favors. Maybe he didn't do himself any within that own conundrum. Learn how to, eat some of those balls, maybe take a sack, throw a ball away. It was just, the perfect storm of a disaster for Nate Peterman from the first INT where, it goes right off DeMarco's hands for a pick six and you're already up against it. It couldn't have been worse for him from that. And when you have a rookie quarterback on the road, you have to help him out. You have to help him out. You have to, everything else has to be working in concert around them. And the Bills just don't have that type of unit. And once Benjamin was lost by an injury, which looked like a very bad knee injury when it initially happened, I was like, oh man, there he goes for the year and possibly into camp. It was just, because it looked ugly. And, this asshole Chris Carter gets on there talking smack about how Peterman threw this accurate ball, which caused Benjamin to get his kneecap shattered. He may never play again. All this ridiculous shit you see on TV now, on especially ESPN, which is a toilet bowl anymore. It is the absolute dregs of humanity when it comes to sports talk. Excuse me. If I was the Bills, I would have contacted them. I was like, what are you putting out there about us and our player? Seriously. Like, Benjamin's going to play this week. The kneecap wasn't shattered, nor was it a bang play. But I'll leave that alone. Yeah, the game was a complete and utter. Tyrod came in to spell. He just did what he does. He does this. He has his typical 150-yard, slightly over stat line, if that. ran for a touchdown, got strip sacked for a return touchdown too within that, and that's another thing is he's been attributed with not being turnover prone, and maybe they didn't come in the glut that what Peterman's did, which was historic, but they've been happening to him a little bit more frequently. And I got into not an exchange, just a couple of messages with a very pro Tyrod follower of mine on Twitter. I'm sorry, again, I think at the end of the day we just want to see the Bills win. I do feel that there's a fraction of Tyrod apologists and followers that enjoyed watching Peterman fail out there to justify their own argument, to what do they call that, the confirmation bias. Like, if you think if that's what you needed for affirmation of Tyrod Taylor as a quarterback, for a rookie quarterback in his first start to go out on the road and do that's what you needed to prop up Tyrod as a good quarterback, then that's an indictment against Tyrod. Sorry. And I can question somebody's fandom too, because it's like, if you're rooting against a guy in your team's uniform to not play well just to justify and validate your own argument, I don't know where your loyalties lie, to be quite honest with you. But I'm not trying to be pugilistic here. I think at the end of the day, most of us, again, if you're watching this video, in your heart of hearts, you want to see the Bills win, and you don't care what form or shape it takes. You want to see them win, and win meaningfully. Win meaningfully. And you go on to KC, again, toothless win, score a touchdown early, just a whole lot of back and forth. Defense played well, but within that, they were playing against a team, granted on the road, and I'll give the defense a lot of credit because they did a lot of good things within that game. And you saw Andy Reid took his team on the road the following week against the Jets, where a place the Bills have struggled the last couple of years, and played very, very well. I mean, you couldn't have got a better game out of Alex Smith, but their defense is just not a very good unit. KC's defense is not a very good unit, and the Bills, maybe they made that unit look good, and maybe KC made the Bills look good. It was just a Bills win, but it's just just one of these things where you're not very entertained watching it. You're happy they won, but during the course, it's just a plane between the 35s, back and forth punt fest, if you will. Oddly enough, the game ends on a Trey White bingo, which I'll move on to the Pats game, where again, game starts off great. Tyrod is obviously reinserted as a starter for the Chiefs game. At home, Pats, you couldn't have started a better drive. The time, they're eating up the clock. They're doing the whole keep away script. Tyrod throws an interception right to former Bills taxi squad member Eric Lee. It was just, I mean, at that point, how many indignities do the Bills have to suffer? It's like, of all people, it could have been to anybody except Gilmore or him, and I would rather it been him, obviously, and it was to him, and it was just like, you knew within that one moment the Bills were not going to win the game. That one, you really didn't have a feeling they could win anyway. I give them a 50-50 chance to win every game going in. That's just the way I'm wired. Otherwise, why bother watching the games? And within that moment, it was just like, they're just not going to win this game. They're just not. You just knew it. INT, I don't know if the Pats went down and got a field goal. But yeah, the first half was nothing. The offense did nothing. Tons of 3-and-outs. Tyrod running around. Either he runs himself out of bounds, which is a sack, and doesn't even throw the ball away, or he's scrambling around And you'd think at some point a receiver would come open downfield. You know, as you like, you see Russell Wilson do. He's doing these scrambles, and somehow a receiver is able to peel off and just become wide open. And then if he does throw the ball, it's a dump down to a back or a tight end. It's never nothing down the field. And I'd love to see if anybody can find this stat. And I'm sorry I didn't look it up before I started doing this. You never see the Bills ever get any of these contact penalties against defenses, these pass interference penalties that other teams seem to draw that are getting them chunks of yardage. You never see any of this because the ball never goes down the field anymore. And getting back to the little exchange I had with the Tyrod fan, as I call him the Tyrod fan, but that's obviously not his name. And he knows who he is if he watches this. I've seen, not only do I think, I know Tyrod's not a starting caliber quarterback in the NFL. If you want to use him as a bridge with the understanding that's what he is, then fine for a year, but you better have a young quarterback. And again, this is not this isn't a Peterman thing, like, hey, I think Peterman's the answer. It's just that I know Tyrod isn't, and Tyrod's proven that. But my point of saying this is, I've seen, and he said a thing about how Tyrod had better numbers last year with a lesser receiving core. And be quite honest with you, I've seen regression in Tyrod Taylor's game this year. Physical regression. I mean, let's be real. I could just rest my case right now without being all long-winded about this and just say, how many more opposing defensive players do you need to hear say, we want him to be a quarterback? The position he played. I mean, imagine a player coming out and saying that about Shady. Oh, we wanted McCoy to be a running back. Well, that's the position he plays. Tyrod Taylor plays quarterback. So you want him to play quarterback. Hence, you want him to have to break you down mentally and then transfer it physically. For me, I mean, I rest my case right there. I could just rest my case right there, and there's no bigger indictment than that. Forget all the talking heads you see calling the Bills incompetent and stupid, or whatever your own bias may be or may not be, whether it's for Tyrod or against him. You know, whatever they say on WGR, all that stuff, because you have a few, I don't even know. I think there's probably only one guy who's on there regularly who thinks Tyrod's a good player on the afternoon show. There are no bigger statements than NFL players that play against him saying we wanted him to play the position he plays. That's as damning of a statement as you could make. So, I mean, to talk about to beat on to Tyrod anymore is neither here nor there. And I've seen regression in his game. I mean, he came off, he got hurt his first year, you know, running, made a great play in Tennessee, ended up getting hurt, played through it, couldn't play another 2 games. It was able to weather last year. He took some pretty good hits. Didn't play at the end of the season because of a groin issue. They wouldn't have locked in his money. Put him on the bench. Probably, definitely some other reasons behind that, behind the scenes, which was not good. Tyrod turned into a victim, and I feel for Tyrod because he is a good guy. Every other component of the quarterback job, the studying, the work, the leadership, he wants to win. He wants to be good, but he just doesn't have the physical attributes, the mental, just to do it. He just doesn't. He doesn't process the game mentally fast enough to do it. He's got all the physical. He's got big hands. He's got like the 10-inch hands. He's about slightly above 6 feet. He's a bigger guy than Drew Brees. He just doesn't mentally process the game fast enough. And so that Pats game, we just saw nothing. Nothing. He ends up getting hurt. And it's a bruised patella tendon. And on the surface, it's not. You know, when you have a patella, when you bruise your knee to the point of, especially for him, where his legs are pretty much his A attribute. There is really no, I mean, throwing the ball down the field used to be his B attribute. Um, Whether it's personnel or just I think he's regressed as a passer because I feel it's a twofold issue. They're asking him to do more as a quarterback in terms of processing the game mentally, and I feel like his physical is wearing down. He's not as explosive as a runner as he once was because of these injuries. And these injuries are going to continue to mount because of his style and his size and the fact that he doesn't throw the ball away and he takes unnecessary hits. He does not throw the ball away. If you notice when he scrambles out, he'll either scramble and just get sacked because he just doesn't give up on a play, or he'll just run out of bounds. Or when he does, you know, he doesn't get rid of the ball fast enough within the pocket, he takes unnecessary hits there too and gets pulled down in awkward ways. He was injured from the first play of the game on offense for the Bills. And it just got worse and worse and worse. And knees will stiffen up and they will become dense and sore as shit. And a doctor that does a lot of good stuff on Twitter with athletes, not football doc. There's another one. You can't inject that knee because the tendon. There's really no place to put the needle to inject the tendon. The area with a painkiller, so he's just gonna have to eat it. Now you're gonna be on a slick field. There's a portion of people, you know, the conspiracy theorists, well, they want to keep Tyrod off the field anyway. Well, they could go that route, or there'll be the same people that'll say if Tyrod goes on the field in a slick field with his style and gets hurt even worse, and gets a ruptured patella tendon, which is the kiss of death for any athlete, particularly one like him that relies on his legs. Ask Victor Cruz. You know, there's been other basketball players. That is worse than an ACL. That is the kiss of death for an athlete when you blow that patella tendon. That's it, and it's bruised. And to compromise him would be reckless. If you're just going to start Peterman for this one game and then reinsert Tyrod, whatever. But if Peterman plays well, I think they'll roll with him. And if he gives them another 5 bingo performance, I mean, it's quite possible. Who knows? Then, you know, whatever happens at this point during the season. But I think in their heart of hearts, do they want to get a look at Peterman? Yes, as they should. As they should, because we all know Tyrod's not going to be here next year. But I think they would do him a disservice and themselves, ultimately, who they're beholden to, a disservice by not looking at Peterman, 1, 2, by putting a compromised player out there, who, if he does get hurt, even worse, their fat will be held to the fire. They're going to lose no matter what in terms of public perception, so you may as well really do what you want to do. So, and I'll wrap this all up by saying that this offseason is so vital, and I'm going to continue to say this during these videos because I do these videos and I try not to do them as frequently as I was doing last week because I had so much was going on, well, 2.5, 3 weeks ago, and when I do these videos, it takes a lot of emotion because these videos are like, you know, in a corny way, they're like my love letter to the Bills. It's when again, if you guys if people are out there watching this, whether it's to make fun of me or to agree with me or to, you know, be critical or, you know, watch, but with, you know, you could agree with some things but disagree on others, and that's totally fine. When I put these things out there, I don't put them out there to have a bunch of nodding heads say, oh yeah, he's right. No, healthy, you know, criticism, constructive arguments are awesome. And that's what makes people and individuals. But I say this, you know, that they're like my love letter to the Bills because when you live your life around this club like we do, and at the end of it all, we just want to see them win the the grand prize at the end of this. It becomes taxing when you see them not go the route that we know that they need to go. And that's the route that Bean and McDermott are going to have to go, because the ills of the past, we've seen what they are. We've seen good defenses, we've seen good running games, and we've had too many of these guys in the job make the fatal error in the job, whether it was the people making the decisions, or the coach who had a little more power than another coach, or the coach who did not have enough power. Nobody ever put down their foot down and said, well, we need to get a quarterback who can allow us to cover up some stench that we have here, here, and here, while we're able to add over time. It was always, we're going to try to have this around this quarterback who's not able to lift up other people, because there's going to be games where your offensive line's not going to play good. There's going to be games where you're not going to be able to run the football as good. There's going to be games where your defense doesn't play up to the level or standard you're used to, or you're going to have a special teams gaffe, something, or where the other team is just hot and they're playing well and their quarterback is just on fire and you're going to have to go blow for blow with him. And you've seen games like that with the Bills. It's like they don't win those games. Those games are done, over. And then what will happen is, over time, whoever the coach was or will be, people become emotionally bogged down by being in that environment. And then they might be talented, but then they just, through mental fatigue, they just become worn thin and they regress to the lowest common denominator. That's what happens. And I've seen it too many times, and it's because the regimes of the past never sat down and said, we're going to put this position ahead of all others, and we're going to do it. It's going to be ugly, and I'll tell Bills fans right now, the 5 INT game is not a referendum on Peterman's career. And it won't be on a rookie quarterback next year, if that's the case, because a rookie quarterback is going to throw INTs. Just because you watched a quarterback not throw them, but yet the team has not won. So what has that gotten you? It's gotten them nothing. It's gotten the team just where they've always been. Meanwhile, everybody extols the virtues of what he does do, the protect the ball and all this stuff, but there's so many other components of the position and game that he doesn't do that are vital, and we all know what they are. And when you want to go back and listen to what Bean says and describes and what he wants in a quarterback, I believe it was a sit-down he had with Joe Biscaglia. I'm sure Joe has that video somewhere on his Twitter. That does not describe Tyrod Taylor in the least. So, again, Tyrod Taylor's a good guy. Have him as my backup any day. A guy who'd want to, with the understanding that's what he was doing, mentoring a young player to be a quarterback and show him how to lead and stuff all day long, twice again on Sunday. But a guy that they can try to pass off, which I don't think they're doing anymore, with like the Rex coach Bills were doing, is done. And it's unfortunate what they did to Tyrod, because I feel like he was a victim of circumstance. There was a lot of bad stuff going on. Darius getting suspended, Carlos Williams fat, suspended, cut, Sammy's injury, which they knew he had, which was probably worse than they let on, who needed surgery, the whole shady thing late after the 15 season, which he rectified, but still there was a lot of stench around the team. The whole Shaq Lawson, they drafted him knowing that he did not pass the physical. They drafted him anyway. Ragland gets hurt, and the team, who do you think would pushed for this other than Rex? They needed a positive PR plug to go into the season with, And they used Tyrod to do that with, signing him to the contract and saying, well, you can go back and find the John Murphy clips, which are the state-run radio. They'll change their narrative every other week or two, depending on what the Bills are doing, to conform with what the team is doing rather than what is real or not real. And they can deny that all they want. You listen to them enough, that's what they do. They were like, we have found our franchise quarterback. Well, you don't ask your franchise quarterback to take a pay cut a year later, or we're going to cut you. So the Bills didn't do it with the right reasons. They didn't do it with the belief that he was going to be that. They just did it because they needed a positive spin to go into the season with. And that's what they did, at the behest of Russ Brandon and Rex Ryan. And at the end of the day, cost everybody their job, and Brandon to be told, you're a pariah here and you're not allowed near the facility, pretty much. He's in the Pagula offices in downtown Buffalo, near the Harbor Center now. So the mistake of this pass is just, I don't care how many draft picks it takes. I don't care what they identify and who it is. I'm a Baker Mayfield guy through and through. Anybody who follows me on Twitter knows that. I don't mind. I like what I've seen from a Mason Rudolph. I like Darnold has that makeup, but I think his blood's going to be too rich. I don't even think he's coming out. From everything I hear and read, that he's just not coming out. Rosen, I don't like what I hear about him behind the scenes. I like the talent physically, but behind the scenes, I don't like what I hear, and it's not his opinionated ways. It's not that at all. I hear personality-wise, it lines up with Jay Cutler, and I want no part of that. No part of that whatsoever. But yeah, the Mayfield, Josh Allen, don't even talk to me about. Never mention his name to me. I'd rather have Tyrod Taylor than Josh Allen, because all I think Josh Allen is look the part. That's all I think he is. That's it. He's terrible. Lamar Jackson, no, I want no part of him. And I want no part of a Kirk Cousins contract either. Want no part of that, and I don't think this regime does either. So yeah, they're gonna have to sink their teeth into one of these quarterbacks by hook, borrow, steal, kill, hook, line, or sinker. They're gonna have to do it, and they're gonna have to identify which one they want to do it with. And I'm sure this will be a very interesting offseason, not only for that, but some, just that's the 10,000-pound elephant in the room. Whatever the 25,000-pound elephant in the room is, this quarterback decision for the Bills in 18. That is it. With the amount of ammunition, draft capital they have, that is the coup de grace of topics for the Bills. But then there's other little trimmings. Shaq Lawson, I think, might have played his last days with the Bills. I mean, this was a guy, a first-round pick. I just said they drafted him knowing he wouldn't have passed. He didn't pass their physical because he had a torn labrum, and it just got to the point where he couldn't play with it no more, and they had to fix it. I don't. How can they justify having Cordy Glenn's contract as a backup swing tackle? I think they've obviously moved on from him. Deion Dawkins is the left tackle of the Bills going forward. Incognito, how do you justify paying a 35-year-old guard $7.5 million? Kyle Williams talks like and sounds like, you listen to him on WGR, he wants to come back, and he has designs on playing again because he likes the preparation, he likes the mental. Under certain parameters, I would take him back on a 1 year, much less than $8 million. But an interesting snippet he said in his interview was, I still like the preparation. I still like the Monday through Saturday. I still like being able to show young guys on tape, hey, look at this, this, and this. Don't do this and do this. And they were like, oh, I never saw that before. But there's Kyle there, mentoring them and providing that veteran sounding board. And then they asked Kyle, well, who did that for you when you came in? And he said, nobody. Nobody. And, you know, that in that moment, it hit me like a 1,000-pound sledgehammer. I was like, boom. I'm like, you really do need those veteran voices around some of the younger, more talented players to help them grow mentally. All the stuff we don't see behind the scenes. All the only things we see is on Sundays and whatever little clips the Bills put up of practices and stuff. We don't see that Monday through Saturday content. We just don't see it. That is vital to me. Vital. You know, a guy like, and I didn't even talk about the whole Gronk Trey White hit, which is an absolute fucking disgrace on so many levels. The fact that he even did it, one, the Bills were in a position where they were damned if they did and damned if they didn't. They attacked Gronk. They still got a penalty anyway just from Hughes saying something. The Bills aren't the Pats, where if they get Jerry Hughes and Preston Brown suspended, that's a big blow to the defense, a massive blow. It's not like, you know, the Pats where they have Brady and he's the ultimate perfume for the stinkiest fucking animal in the zoo. It's not like that at all. They can afford not to have Gronk and they'll still win. But it was more frustration, I think, of Bills fans about the whole not retaliating physically. We're just tired of being victimized by the Pats. Whether it's on the game field, on the scoreboard, and that was totally, I mean, we've all seen it. It was after the play. It was not between the white lines. It was premeditated, malicious. He could have fucking severed the guy's spinal cord. He could have gave him a concussion from hell. That could have been one of those concussions that's just like, it's like a concussion that's so bad that it just, anytime you get hit in the head, it's like a boxer who's been viciously knocked out. I mean, he's had the button pushed brutally. If you've ever seen a one-hitter quitter where the guy's eyes are just staring up at the lights and his CNS is completely shut off, and he's did one of those frozen stiff ones, those are the scary ones. Very scary. And once you get that button pushed, it's much, much easier to reproduce that. You know, and then you can't play the sport no more. One fucking game? NFL is a joke. They really are. The whole facade of safety that they like to, like the whole, oh, we're safe, it's a facade. It's a total farce. They're in love with facades. Players, you know, remember the whole, like, oh, the players crying about you know, the violence against women. They're so phony. They're so reactionary. They're proactive. They're reactive, not proactive. They make me sick, and that's all I'll say about them. I love the whole Mike Mitchell rant, by the way, about contact rules in the NFL and this and that. I have it on my Twitter, the full media scrum. So I would recommend you guys watch it. It was great. It was 6 minutes, and it was completely 100% candid, honest, and I agree with him 100%. You can't play the game half-assed. You play it full tilt or not at all, because a player's ended up compromising their own safety and conversely maybe hurt somebody worse, intending, not trying to get them hurt. So yeah, it's gonna be these 4 games. We're gonna watch and see what happens, see how the team plays. But you know, the quarterback situation, I had a feeling going in late, you know, just as McDermott confirmed it was going to be a game time decision, which it is. I happen to think it's going to be Peterman, for the aforementioned reasons, his mobility being compromised. You know, Brandon Riley was called up, a guy that Peterman's had more reps with than anybody. Benjamin's coming back, a bad defense, particularly passing wise. So they could vision this as a game where they want to see, like, okay, let's give him, you know, it's at home, let's give Peterman a leg up now. Let's give him as good a chance as he'll have and really see. Now, if he goes out there and shits the bed in this environment, then okay. It's like, dude, come on. At least show a little something. All right, Bills fans, it's Friday. I look like shit, but my laundry's done, as it always is when I do these videos. It's kind of like, it's weird. I mean, I pick up my laundry. I pay somebody to do it, sue me. But yeah, it's again, we're on that proverbial in the hunt hamster wheel. Hopefully there's an end in sight and they're in instead of in the hunt. Because if they say you're in the hunt, you're really not in it. I just want to see like in the playoffs. All right, guys, you have a great weekend. Let's watch it. Let's watch an entertaining game this Sunday. How about that? An entertaining game, a win. Want to see yards. I want to see some high. I want to see some plays. I want to see some you know it's fun. I want to see a fun game to watch, an entertaining game, and I want to see them win. All right, guys, have a great weekend, and that'll make it even better. Be safe. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, your holiday.